You're watching New York 1 News.
Here's a look at our top stories in a New York 1 Minute. A grand jury has indicted 2 police of brutally beating a young man in their custody. The alleged beating happened in September and left Yunus Muhammad with a broken jaw. The incident reportedly occurred following last month's rowdy police demonstration at City Hall. Congressional candidate Nydia Velázquez admits to attempting suicide last year. Velázquez says she sought help and today has a completely different outlook on life. If elected, she would become the first Puerto Rican woman to serve in Congress. Another New York high school is closed, but this time due to asbestos contamination. Students at Marist High School in the Bronx were sent home Thursday. School officials hope to return the students to class on Tuesday. And if you plan to vote next month, you better register. If not, you'll be out of luck. You have to have the application in the mail by midnight.
From New York City's only all-news channel, this is New York 1, news all evening.
Good evening, I'm Roma Torrey, and here's a look at the headlines at this hour. The brutal boss of the Lucchese organized crime family has been sentenced to life in prison without parole. Vittorio Vic Amuso was convicted in June of ordering numerous murders and heading the lucrative crime empire. The United States is demanding the release of an American weapons expert seized by Iraqi police. United Nations officials say the Iraqis grabbed Chad Hall at gunpoint Thursday as he was removing explosives from the demilitarized zone along the Iraq-Kuwait border. They say he was on the Kuwait side of the border when he was abducted. Flags are flying at half-staff in Germany. Former West German Chancellor Willy Brandt died of cancer on Thursday. Brandt won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1971 for his efforts to improve relations between West Germany and then communist East Germany. And final preparations are underway for Sunday night's presidential debate in St. Louis, Missouri. Time now for weather on the ones. Good news and bad news overnight. Temperatures remain comfortable in the low 60s, but the rain remains too. It stays humid at 87%. Winds are calm, and the comfort index says it feels a little cooler overnight, 59 degrees. The holiday weekend gets off to a shaky start, but should become beautiful by Saturday midday. Highs 69 degrees, humidity drops to 54, and the comfort index says it'll really feel like 67 Saturday. As for the nighttime, low temperatures drop to 55 degrees, humidity rises, but it should remain dry, feeling more like 56 degrees. Nydia Velázquez is fighting mad and fighting back. The congressional candidate from the 12th District is fuming after her medical records were released to the press. The records reveal Velázquez tried to commit suicide last year. New York 1's Dominic Carter has the story.
This was Nydia Velázquez when New York 1 followed her home to a hero's welcome in Puerto Rico.
I feel very proud. I feel very honored and very privileged of being Puerto Rican today.
The daughter of a sugarcane farmer, Velázquez has overcome many obstacles, including the recent primary in the 12th Congressional District against powerful incumbent Stephen Solars and a group of Hispanic candidates. But Velázquez acknowledges personal problems just over a year ago, and she could not handle the pressure.
In 1991, in a troublesome period of my life, I attempted to commit suicide. It was a sad and painful experience for me.
Velázquez is furious over how confidential medical records were leaked from St. Clair's Hospital in Manhattan.
I am calling on the Attorney General and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to launch an inquiry as to the release of these private medical records by St. Clair's Hospital.
Her admission comes after Thursday's headline story in the New York Post. The paper says the records were anonymously faxed to it. Supporters of Velázquez say the story is an invasion of her privacy, but the New York Post responds Velázquez is a public official that is most likely only days away from Washington.
Our information was that it was out there with other organizations out among the media, number one. Number two, I think it's a legitimate story. I think the way we handled it is the way it should have been handled. We didn't scream it. It's a human story.
Governor Cuomo and Mayor Dinkins rallied to Velasquez, saying the story served no purpose. Friday's headline of El Diario, New York's largest Spanish newspaper, translates low blow. On Graham Avenue in Williamsburg, near Velasquez's headquarters, her support in the Puerto Rican community remains strong.
I can understand that since she's a public official, that that may be important to some people, but I don't think that that will have an effect on her ability to do her job.
What happened to her in the past happened to her in the past. What's important is what she does for the community now.
In the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, Dominic Carter, New York 1.
2 police officers have been indicted on the charge of brutally beating a man in their custody. The alleged incident happened following last month's rowdy police demonstration at City Hall. New York 1's Gary Anthony Ramsey has more.
He was in fear.
One of Yunus Muhammad's lawyers reacts to the indictments of 2 police officers. They're charged with brutalizing his client after they arrested him.
As a victim, his rights were protected by the grand jury, by the assistant district attorney in this case, and he now is preparing for his defense.
Charged with the assault are 25-year-old Thomas Sia and 25-year-old Patrick O'Neill, both from the 83rd Precinct in Brooklyn. The incident took place shortly after last month's police demonstration against an all-civilian review board. Several officers were on a Queens-bound M train that afternoon. One of them was Officer John Coughlin. He and the Brooklyn teenager bumped into each other. At first, they exchanged words. A few seconds later, the conflict escalated. Coughlin and Muhammad got into a fight shortly before the train pulled into the Myrtle-Wyckoff station here in Brooklyn. A fight that left Coughlin with a slash in his face that required 500 stitches to close. With the help of another officer, Coughlin was still able to arrest Muhammad, but apparently the incident was far from over. Muhammad says that once he was in the patrol car, 2 officers beat him up and broke his jaw. The district attorney also filed second-degree assault charges against Muhammad for using a box cutter on Officer Coughlin.
Officer Coughlin almost lost his life, and to me that seems as attempted murder. And then you can go down to assault 1. Assault 2 could be a contusion.
The officer may have been belligerent and may have produced in our client's mind the fear that it wasn't just a simple punch. The only thing I can say is that what happened to Mr. Muhammad after he was taken into custody may prove relevant to what was in his mind beforehand.
The 2 officers pleaded not guilty to the assault charges and will return to court later this month. Muhammad is still out on bail, awaiting his arraignment. In downtown Brooklyn, Gary Anthony Ramsey, New York 1.
The boss of the Lucchese crime family was sentenced to life without parole Friday. Vittorio Vic Amuso was convicted last June of committing 9 murders, plus charges of extortion, gambling, and labor corruption. U.S. Attorney Andrew Maloney said Amuso's conviction ranks with that of John Gotti in damaging organized crime. And like the Gotti case, key testimony against Amuso came from his trusted lieutenant. Investigators at the Brooklyn DA's office believe John Gotti's son may have been involved in a bias attack on a black teenager. The DA's office has reportedly told the New York Post that the jailed mafia boss's youngest son, Peter, is one of the suspects in the September 27th assault on 17-year-old Mark Terry. Terry was accosted as he walked to his Brooklyn apartment carrying groceries. He told police that 2 carloads of white teenagers spotted him, stopped and shouted, "There's one, get him," and called him a nigger. One of the group shot at him with a pellet gun, but only hit his umbrella. So far, only 17-year-old Joseph Cassidy of Howard Beach, Queens, has been arrested in connection with the attack. Senator Alphonse D'Amato will continue running a campaign ad showing Geraldine Ferraro attacking Robert Abrams. This according to a D'Amato spokesperson. Ferraro has asked D'Amato to immediately stop using her face and name in his campaign commercial. Ferraro lost a bitter and close Democratic Senate primary to Abrams. The commercial uses footage from a debate between the Democratic candidates. It shows Ferraro accusing Abrams of being in, quote, contempt of criticism, end quote, from the State Commission on Government Integrity. This for taking contributions from individuals with cases being reviewed by his office. Coming up on New York Living, this week marks the comeback for Toronto's Maple Leafs, both on and off the ice. We'll explain when we come back.
Remember when you had to break in your jeans? Why are you still breaking in your shoes? Rockports are made with soft, tumbled leather, so they feel like old friends even when they're new. Rockport, comfort to go and go. Yeah, right. If you're looking for long-lasting comfort and support, wear Rockports. Or call your mother.
5-year-old Melanie lives in a shack in the Philippines. At night, she eats only a bowl of rice and goes to sleep on a floor mat. Melanie desperately needs nutritious food, medicine, and a chance to go to school. You can sponsor a child like Melanie for only $12 a month. Call now for your free information kit, including the photo and personal history of a child who needs you. There's no obligation, but if you decide to sponsor this child, you'll get so much more. And during the year, you'll receive 2 personal letters from your child. You'll watch your child blossom and grow strong because of your love and all that your $12 a month provides. Food and clothing, medical care, and education. For your free, no-obligation sponsorship information, call 1-800-847-1700. That's 1-800-847-1700.
You wanna accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Tune in to the affirmative, the family channel, yes indeed.
Nobody captures life on the positive side like the Family Channel.
You wanna accentuate the positive, the family channel, yes indeed.
And now it's time to check on weather on the ones and the extended forecast. If you're a duck, Friday night will be pretty pleasant. Showers and thunderstorms continue through the night, lows near 60, winds from the south moving at 8 miles an hour, and the comfort index says it'll feel more like 59 overnight. A big improvement Saturday. The wet weather ends by midday, giving us a partly sunny and mild day, highs in the lower 70s. Much less humid and winds calm at 10 miles an hour. The comfort index says Saturday's temperature should feel more like 67. Saturday night, the temperature drops into the mid-50s. Humidity rises once again to 77, and the comfort index says it'll feel more like 56 degrees. And as for the extended forecast all the way into the holiday, Sunday, expect a chance of showers and thunderstorms. High temperatures in the mid-60s, lows around 56. And Monday, Columbus Day, you can discover a mostly fair day. Highs mid to upper 60s, lows way down in the 40s. And as we check on travel conditions across the country, remember you can always find the New York City time and temperature in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, right here on New York One. And now for a look at the news from beyond New York. The State Department says the U.S. is demanding Iraq release an American seized by Iraqi police. United Nations officials say weapons expert Chad Hall was grabbed at gunpoint while he was removing Iraqi military explosives from the demilitarized zone between Iraq and Kuwait. They say he was on the Kuwait side of the border when he was seized. Iraq's UN ambassador says he hopes the issue can be resolved through diplomatic means. Hall is reportedly safe and in good health. One of the grand old men of German politics has died. Former West German Chancellor Willy Brandt died of cancer on Thursday. He was 78 years old. Brandt won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1971 for his efforts to improve relations between West Germany and then communist East Germany. A White House spokesman says it's significant that Brandt lived to see Germany united. And final preparations are underway for Sunday night's long-awaited presidential debate at Washington University in St. Louis. The face-off is the first of 3 presidential debates. The debate will use the panel of reporters format and will be moderated by McNeil Lehrer NewsHour co-host Jim Lehrer. If the city's mayoral election were held today, David Dinkins would come out a winner. This according to a new poll by the Marist Institute. The survey says Dinkins would defeat likely Republican opponent Rudolph Giuliani by a margin of 47 to 38%. In a 3-way race between Dinkins, Giuliani, and City Council President Andrew Stein, the poll suggests Dinkins would get 39.5% of the vote, Giuliani would receive 31.3%, and Stein would get 17.5%. The survey was conducted at the end of September. 518 people were interviewed. The margin of error is plus or minus 4%.
In today's economy, anyone can have a credit problem. Medical bills, a sudden layoff, or any unusual expense can have an effect on your credit. At Champion, we make second mortgages for people with credit problems every day. We can help you repair your credit. And by lowering your monthly expenses, we can help you do something many of us haven't done for years. Put money into savings each and every month. That's how people become strong again. When your bank says no, Champion says yes.
Admiral and Lady Billingsley of Devonshire. Lord and Lady Atherton of Sussex. Sir Alfred and Lady Sheffield of Dunsmore. And Bob of Buffalo.
New York Lotto. Hey, you never know.
New York 1, Thompson Playground.
Because my kids play here.
Because there's only one New York. New York 1. New York City news for New Yorkers. 24 hours a day. Only on cable TV. Only on Channel 1. New York 1. Staten Island. Because there's only one. Staten Island Ferry. New York 1.
Because there's only one New York.
New York 1. New York City news for New Yorkers. 24 hours a day. Only on cable TV. Only on Channel 1.
I'm Roma Torrey. Here's a look at some of the headlines we're following at this hour. A grand jury has indicted 2 police officers on charges of beating a young man in their custody. In September, the 2 officers allegedly beat Yunus Muhammad while in a police car, breaking his jaw. The alleged beating happened following last month's rowdy police demonstration at City Hall. Congressional candidate Nydia Velázquez admits to attempting suicide last year. Velázquez says she sought help and today has a completely different outlook on life. If elected, she would become the first Puerto Rican woman to serve in Congress. Another New York high school is closed, but this time due to asbestos contamination. Students at Marist High School in the Bronx were sent home Thursday. School officials hope to return the students to class on Tuesday. And if you plan to vote next month, you better register. If you're not, good luck. Midnight tonight is the mail-in deadline. Marist High School in the Bronx is closed after workers found asbestos-covered pipes there Thursday. The landmark school, built in 1901, is undergoing a needed $46 million renovation. 1,700 students will be attending other schools in the meantime. Asbestos has been shown to cause cancer if inhaled. The mother of one student says she's especially concerned about the problem.
It upset me because he's an asthmatic, because they say it can affect people with asthma, heart trouble, and stuff like that. And my main concern is, what's that? What are they going to do about it? If they going to clear it up, they say going to take it. Some say it takes 2 weeks, some say it takes 3 months. I don't know. But nobody tell us anything yet. Then I find out this morning when I came down here that they're going to transfer him to another school. I said, good, as long as he go to school.
No word yet on how long the school will be closed. Officials say it could reopen Tuesday, depending on test results after the cleanup.
With a look at sports on New York 1, I'm Bud Mishkin. The Giants got the official word on Phil Simms today. Arthroscopic surgery Monday on his throwing elbow. The surgery is designed to remove bone chips. Simms is expected to miss at least 3 to 4 weeks. Ray Hanley says Simms will dress in an emergency basis Sunday for the game against Phoenix. He'll be the third-string quarterback behind Jeff Hostetler and Dave Brown. Baseball, the National League playoffs move to Pittsburgh tonight. It'll be Glavine versus Wakefield. Must win for the Pirates? I'd say so. They're down 2-0 in the best-of-7 series to Atlanta. Game starts at 8:37. Blue Jays and A's resume tomorrow in Oakland with the series tied at a game apiece. One of the big stories in last night's Toronto win, the great pitching of former Met David Cone, especially in the 5th when he struck out 2 men with runners on 2nd and 3rd. Cone later talked about the pressure he faced last night, brought in as the Blue Jays' hired gun.
Would put it right up there with Game 6 when I was with the Mets in '88. We were on the brink of elimination at that point. There was a lot of adversity surrounding that series, too, so there was a lot of pressure then. But, yeah, I felt just as much tonight.
And finally, hockey. The Rangers are opening their season tonight in Landover, Maryland, a place where they against the Capitals. We'll have highlights later. The Rangers are in Jersey tomorrow night, and the home opener is Monday night against the Hartford Whalers. The Devils are also playing tonight. They're in Philadelphia to take on the Flyers and Eric Lindros. With a look at sports on New York 1, I'm Bud Mishkin.
Sports on 1 is sponsored by OTB. Now it's easier than ever to OT bet by phone.
All right.
I can't believe my horse won.
I just phoned in my bet.
I just picked a letter.
You gotta try it.
OTB is better than ever. More people are winning because there's more ways to play. One way is to treat yourself to the Elegant Select Club and Inside Track teletheaters. But the most convenient way is to bet by phone. OTB's new telephone betting system and representatives make it even easier for you to bet by phone. And there's no surcharge on your winnings. Call 212-704-5337 to open your account. Act now and you'll get a free OTB t-shirt. That's 212-704-5337. Call now.
To my grandfather, it's been almost 100 years since you've opened the store, and if you walked into it today, you'd see the store you always dreamed of. Today, ABC brings the soul and spirit of cultures together from all over the world. As you used to say, it takes a dream to build a store, and it takes a heart to build a home.
Hi, what time do you open for lunch? And you accept credit cards? They do. Great, thanks. Yeah, what's playing? Oh, is it good? Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah, is your sale still on? In the shoe department as well? Yes.
The calls you make each
Terrific.
day can help to smooth your way.
Oh, no. You think it's gonna rain? Why don't you call for the weather?
We're all
Great idea.
connected. New York telephone.
Time now for weather on the ones. Good news and bad news overnight. Temperatures remain comfortable in the low 60s, but the rain remains too. It stays humid at 87%. Winds are calm, and the comfort index says it feels a little cooler overnight, 59 degrees. The holiday weekend gets off to a shaky start, but should become beautiful by Saturday midday. Highs 69 degrees, humidity drops to 54, and the comfort index says it'll really feel like 67 Saturday. As for the nighttime, low temperatures drop to 55 degrees, humidity rises, but it should remain dry, feeling more like 56 degrees.
This portion of New York One News is sponsored by 5 Borough Chevrolet Geo Dealers.
I'm Roma Torrey, and this is New York Living. If you're planning a vacation, this may be the perfect time to go to Toronto. Travel experts say there's a special deal to the Canadian city that tourists can't afford to pass up. Niagara Falls, one of those sites you always plan to see, but never get there. Well, if you visit Toronto, here's your chance. Just 90 minutes south by bus, it'll cost about $80 for adults, including lunch. Children, $50. In Toronto itself, there are several special tourist deals being offered this season. Beginning November 2nd and running through April, the city is promoting what it calls Toronto's Value Plus packages. Visitors would get special rates on hotels, theater, car rentals, and tourist attractions. Meals are also available on a 2-for-1 plan. Beside the lower prices, New Yorkers will find the U.S.-Canadian dollar exchange rate to their advantage. Americans gain 25 cents on the dollar, and New Yorkers who hate paying taxes will be very happy with a Toronto policy allowing foreigners to receive tax rebates on goods and services exceeding $100. If the thought of Toronto in the winter doesn't thrill you, maybe this will. Literally whole blocks of nothing but shopping. The Toronto Underground is the world's largest subterranean complex. It covers 6 blocks of stores, restaurants, parks, and fountains. Think of it as Macy's underground. And think of this as Toronto's South Street Seaport, Queens Quay Terminal on the waterfront. It's a beautifully restored old warehouse, and like all of Toronto, neat, clean, and very pleasant. And if you're more of a sun worshiper, tune in next week when we travel to Cancun, Mexico. It's deadline time for New Yorkers to register to vote in the November elections. If you're planning to mail in your registration, you have until midnight tonight. New York One's Michael O'Looney reports on the last-minute effort to register voters.
The New York Public Interest Group took to the streets to urge New Yorkers to register and exercise their right to vote. The group says it has managed to register nearly 40,000 city voters in the first week of October, and they picked up a few more on Friday. This man says he would not have registered had he not seen the registration table set up at Times Square.
Down here, I wouldn't even think about registering or voting. You know, when I came first, I seen the crowd, I seen how easy it was, so that's why I registered.
The state and city have also been urging New Yorkers to register to vote. But as we found out, that is sometimes easier said than done. We called the New York State registration hotline, 212-4-VOTE, numerous times on Friday, but all we got were busy signals. Then we tried Vote NYC, the hotline set up by the New York City Board of Elections. We tried 9 times, but no luck. Then we tried to call the direct line at the City Board of Elections. We got through, but we did not get the correct information.
Hello.
Good morning. Do you know where I can register to vote today?
Today you'd have to go in person. Today's the last day.
And where could I do that?
32 Broadway, or where do you live?
I live way uptown.
Or you could go to 200 Varick Street.
That's still downtown, huh?
They're both downtown, but one is more uptown than down, okay? And one is all the way down. We're at 32 Broadway all the way down. Those are the only, there's no other places for that unless you find something in the post office and you have it postmarked by midnight tonight.
The operator we talked to did not seem very well informed. So we asked his boss, Daniel DeFrancesco, the executive director of the New York City Board of Elections, for the official answer.
Tonight's the deadline, by mail. You could pick up a form at any of our borough offices, any post office, any library, all city agencies, all state agencies, and just drop it in the mail before midnight. Now, tomorrow, from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., excuse me, we're open in your local area to go register.
When asked why our call did not get that kind of response, DeFrancesco said it was because his office is stretched to capacity. Another thing to keep in mind, if you have changed your address since the last time you registered, you need to re-register. In Manhattan, Michael O'Looney, New York 1.
Now, if you can't make tonight's mail-in deadline, you can register in person on Saturday at several locations, including many public schools. You're watching New York 1 News. I'm Roma Torrey. Stay tuned. There's more news ahead.
You're watching New York 1 News.
Here's a look at the New York 1 Minute. A 23-year-old teacher was shot while in the basement of Eastern District High School for Transit Technology in Brooklyn. Barbara Mendez was shot in the shoulder and rushed to Brookdale Hospital, where she's listed in stable condition. No arrests have been made. New York City has a new police commissioner. Mayor Dinkins named acting police commissioner Raymond Kelly to be the city's top cop. Kelly has his work cut out for him. The department faces increased charges of corruption and public calls for reform and review. Juan Garcia got into a minor car accident in Astoria, Queens. No big deal, right? Well, the problem is Juan Garcia is only 5 years old. The youngster grabbed the keys to his parents' car and drove 20 blocks before he rear-ended a pickup at a gas station. And a tribute to the music of Bob Dylan at Madison Square Garden.
From New York City's only all-news channel, this is New York 1 News all night.
I'm Roma Torrey, and here's a look at what's making headlines this evening. Cops on the beat from all over the city are reacting to the mayor's appointment of Raymond Kelly to serve as their boss. Many are pleased with the choice, while others say they're disappointed the job wasn't filled by a minority member. A major investigation is underway into possible crimes by the U.S. Justice Department, the CIA, and the FBI. The case surrounds illegal bank loans to Iraq. Attorney General William Barr has announced the appointment of a New Jersey judge to head up the probe. German police in Munich have seized what they believe is smuggled uranium intended for a nuclear bomb. U.S. scientists complain controls over such weapons-grade materials are inadequate. It was 6 years ago that nuclear disaster struck the Chernobyl plant in the former Soviet Union. Well, now the crippled nuclear plant is once again generating power. Ukraine officials say it'll provide the area with badly needed energy for the winter. And Dutch officials believe they know the cause of a deadly plane crash in an Amsterdam apartment building earlier this month. They blame it on a flaw in the cargo jet's design. Time now for weather on the ones. You can say goodbye to the springtime. The fall is back, and so's the wet weather. A 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms overnight. Low temperatures in the mid-50s. Strong gusty winds from the west, and the comfort index tells us it'll feel more like 53. Saturday, a much cooler day, but the sun does come out. Highs only around 57. Humidity disappears, but the winds remain strong at 15 miles an hour. The comfort index feels closer to 59. Saturday night, the mercury dips way down to 44 degrees. The humidity climbs to 63%, and the comfort index says it'll feel even colder at 42. The investigation continues into the shooting of a teacher at a Brooklyn high school. At this time, no arrests have been made. New York 1's Carol Ann Riddell has more on the story.
A 23-year-old teacher was hospitalized in stable condition after she was shot during school Friday afternoon. Barbara Mendez is a shop teacher at East New York High School of Transit Technology. As she returned to class from her lunch break, she was shot in the right shoulder by an unknown assailant. Police Chief John Hill gave these details.
She was walking down the stairs. At that particular time, classes were dismissed. There were some students in the hallway. She felt a pain in her right shoulder and realized she was shot.
Mendez was rushed from the school to Brookdale Hospital on the east side of Brooklyn.
Barbara Mendez is what many in the education field call a success story. After graduating from high school, she returned to become a teacher. School officials describe her as well-liked and both an excellent student and instructor. And that's part of the reason why this incident comes as such a shock.
She was just an all-around excellent student, well-liked by teachers, well-liked by students, well-liked by everyone. Why something like this would happen, I couldn't tell you.
Board of Education officials say the school does not have a record of violence. As a result, the school was not one of those given additional security devices such as metal detectors. But School Board President Carl McCall says that although the school itself may not be violent, students are carrying weapons.
Students in that school have been very fearful. They say that many students carry weapons, not because of the school, but because they feel that that's necessary in terms of their passage to and from school.
Board of Ed officials are scheduled to meet with the principal and teachers at the school Monday to discuss additional security. From East New York, Carol Ann Riddell, New York 1.
In Far Rockaway, Queens, a mother and her child are dead following a car accident. Their car jumped a curb late Friday night on Rockaway Boulevard at 131st Street. Authorities say the car careened onto the sidewalk and hit several people, including a 25-year-old woman. She's in critical condition at Jamaica Hospital. The other pedestrians are being treated at Mary Immaculate Hospital. Police are investigating the cause of that crash. New York's finest have a new boss, a police commissioner who's walked a beat and carried a gun. Raymond Kelly was officially named to the post Friday. Dominic Carter reports.
The appointment ends weeks of speculation about who would head the nation's largest police force.
He's a cop. He's a cop's cop. And he's efficient, intelligent, well-educated, orderly, organized. Keep in mind that I've had an opportunity to work with him.
The 51-year-old Kelly has an interesting past. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Manhattan College, a law degree from St. John's, a Master of Law degree from NYU, and another master's degree from Harvard. Kelly started his police career as a teenage switchboard operator and was on the force in 1963. He served in the Marine Corps in Vietnam and now is a colonel in the reserves. Kelly was appointed first deputy police commissioner 2 years ago. He became the acting commissioner when Lee Brown resigned. Within the department, Kelly is viewed as a well-respected manager and problem solver. He's against an all-civilian complaint review board, and he comes to the top post when morale among rank and file is at an all-time low. There's the PBA protest rally at City Hall and the Mullen Commission investigating corruption. Is there a message Kelly would like to send to the cop on the street?
I think what can be expected of me is basically what people have gotten from me for many, many years that I've been in the department. I like to think of myself as a straight shooter, somebody who is fair, somebody who has been there. I've been in over 20 assignments in the department.
The reaction of the PBA to Kelly's appointment.
No one has more eminent qualifications than Ray Kelly to be police commissioner. He earned his way to the top. So therefore, he's well prepared to integrate his goals as far as the police department is concerned and also serve the public.
But one group is not so sure Kelly's the right man for the job. The Guardians, who represent black police officers, criticize Kelly's appointment and wonder whether he'll be fair. At City Hall, Dominic Carter, New York 1.
For weeks, Senator Alphonse D'Amato has been accusing opponent Bob Abrams of taking money from special interest groups. But now D'Amato stands accused himself. A watchdog group called the Center for Responsive Politics says D'Amato has accepted more than $1 million in contributions from special interests. The group says that's more than 5 times the PAC money Abrams has received. D'Amato, who's seeking his 3rd term in the Senate, did not comment on the charge. John Cardinal O'Connor is back home after his release from St. Vincent's Hospital Friday afternoon. The 72-year-old leader of the New York Catholic Archdiocese spent the night at St. Vincent's Hospital after falling ill at a major fundraising dinner. New York 1's Nancy Liu has the latest.
It was Mass without Cardinal O'Connor, and as some New Yorkers prayed for the Cardinal's recovery, the 72-year-old was being released from St. Vincent's Hospital.
I came to the right place because now I'm no longer lightheaded. I'm very strong. I can lift all of you up.
How are you feeling?
Really fine, really quite fine.
Cardinal O'Connor was rushed to St. Vincent's late Thursday after suffering nausea and lightheadedness while attending the Alfred E. Smith Dinner, the biggest annual fundraiser for the Archdiocese. Doctors say they still don't know what ailed the Cardinal, but there's speculation that it may have been just a stomach virus.
I advise you all go in there. You'll look better when you come out.
Asked whether he'll be taking the next few days off to rest, Cardinal O'Connor said no. He'll be going right back to work. At St. Vincent's Hospital, Nancy Liu, New York 1.
Coming up on New York 1, get set for some fun in the sun and the water south of the border. And now here's a look at the headlines from beyond New York. Attorney General William Barr has announced a major investigation into charges of illegal bank loans to Iraq. Barr appointed U.S. District Judge Frederick Lacey of New Jersey to look into possible crimes by the CIA, FBI, and the Justice Department. German police have seized what they believe is uranium intended for a nuclear bomb. The uranium was being sold in a Munich black market for $500,000. Well, now U.S. scientists complain controls over such weapons-grade materials are inadequate. 6 years ago, the world's worst nuclear disaster struck the Chernobyl plant in what was the Soviet Union. Well, now the crippled nuclear plant is again generating power. Ukraine officials say it'll provide the area with badly needed energy for the winter. Dutch airline officials say the crash of a 747 into an apartment building in Amsterdam was probably caused by a flaw in the plane's design. Metal fatigue near the engine of the Israeli cargo plane may be to blame. The crash killed at least 70 people. Dutch officials also warn other 747 cargo jets may have similar problems. And after nearly 80 hours, rescue workers in Egypt have found a survivor in the rubble of a suburban Cairo building that collapsed in Monday's earthquake. The 35-year-old man had been buried alive for more than 80 hours. Around-the-clock search continues for other survivors. Egyptian leaders say the official death toll has now topped 500.
I love this city.
Posing for pictures with semi-nude women while on duty. 4 officers have been placed on desk duty for participating in the public photo shoot. The Internal Affairs Division says the whole thing was exposed when cops from the 6th Precinct got a call of a disturbance on Washington Street in Lower Manhattan. When they arrived, they found a photo session in progress involving several scantily clad women. But instead of checking for permits or even leaving the scene, the officers allegedly volunteered their squad cars and themselves as props for the shoot. For more than an hour, the cops allegedly posed with the women. One officer even let himself be handcuffed to a topless model. If convicted, they could be fined and suspended. What could be the tiniest car thief in history is in custody, back home with his mom and dad. He's just 5 years old, but as New York One's Gary Anthony Ramsey found out, he's already giving a new meaning to that Honda slogan, "I'll take it."
When you first meet 5-year-old Juan Garcia, the first thing you notice are his energy and driving spirit. His parents had no idea how far those characteristics would take him. Early Friday morning, little Juan took the keys to the family car and drove himself to this gas station. Who taught you how to drive?
Myself.
Yourself? Who did you see drive the car before?
My friend.
While his parents slept, the little boy took his parents' Honda Accord and drove through the neighborhood. His journey ended when he ran into the back end of a truck parked in the gas station. When the other driver and the gas station attendant went over to the car, they found Juan. Little Juan's parents had no idea where he was. Quite frankly, neither did Juan, until the police called Mrs. Garcia early this morning to tell her where her son was and what he was doing. He drove more than 30 blocks from his house, a feat that his mother still can't believe. Where do you think he learned how to drive?
He learned. I don't know when he learned. I don't know. This is new for me.
Is he going to be driving anymore?
No. Oh, my God.
Just you crazy, maybe?
Yeah. I don't know.
In Astoria, Gary Anthony Ramsey, New York One.
Good evening, I'm Roma Torrey. Topping our news tonight, it wasn't expected to be a friendly debate, and it wasn't. Senator Alphonse D'Amato and Democratic challenger Robert Abrams faced off in Albany Saturday night for their second debate, seen here live on New York One. Both the senator and Abrams went at each other for an hour, covering subjects ranging from congressional term limits to abortion. But in their closing statements, both candidates shifted the focus back to a familiar theme, integrity.
And I think it is important to have the total confidence in a United States senator. And it is a matter of concern that there have been reports over the last number of days that a new investigation has been opened by the Public Integrity Unit of the United States Justice Department concerning allegations that Senator D'Amato may well have coached a witness in a federal grand jury examination as to whether or not HUD contracts were steered to those who were contributors to Senator D'Amato.
I think it's unfortunate that the Attorney General once again had to demonstrate to the people how he can't help but get back into the mud. Same thing he did to Geraldine, continuing these kinds of allegations and attacks, unprincipled, have no place, and yet he cries when we demonstrate his record and take him to task for that. It's unfortunate, but, you know, that's it, and the people get to see it.
New York One will replay the debate in its entirety Sunday morning at both 8 and 10 o'clock, and then again on Sunday evening at 8. Both Al D'Amato and Bob Abrams were on their best behavior during Saturday's debate. The single moderator format had both men addressing the home audience far more than each other. New York One's Andrew Kurtzman talked with the candidates after the exchange and has more on the story.
Economy?
For the past year, Al D'Amato has been waging the political fight of his life. On Saturday night, he announced that that fight may also be his last.
I want to be in a position to serve the last 6 years and call him the way I have been without people second-guessing me and saying, well, why he's doing that for political motivations. Oh, he's getting ready to run for this, or he's getting ready. I want to be a senator who can serve and say, I know where the action is. I know how to get things done. I'm not afraid to stand up when it's necessary. And people are going to say, well, you know, we believe him because he's not going to run for another office and he's not going to do. And maybe I can make a difference. Maybe others will join. And that's my intent and that's my pledge.
D'Amato brought up the subject during his debate with State Attorney General Robert Abrams when he announced his support for congressional term limits. Abrams was not impressed.
I think he sees the handwriting on the wall, that he's in a lot of trouble,
that he needs some effort to divert the attention of the public from some of the gut issues. D'Amato has served 12 years in the Senate and has been fighting tenaciously not only to beat back Abrams, but also to fight a potential Democratic landslide in New York State. A recent poll had Bill Clinton beating George Bush by 30 points in New York State and 50 points in New York City. D'Amato has increasingly attempted to distance himself from the president, and in a twist, is also comparing himself to Bill Clinton. D'Amato defended his attacks on Bush.
I said that when I thought the president was wrong on issues such as the tax increase in 1990, I not only voted against it, but I went publicly and said it was the wrong thing to do, that it was the beginning of the end as far as I was concerned, as it related to some very clear differences that we had from the other party.
Saturday's debate produced no clear winner, which means that this race may continue as a cliffhanger up until election night. D'Amato's aggressive attacks against Abrams have clearly made inroads, but it's far from clear that D'Amato can stem the course of events and assure that he'll finish up his term in 6 years instead of 2 months. In Schenectady, Andrew Kurtzman, New York 1.
New York 1 will replay Saturday night's senatorial debate between Bob Abrams and Alphonse D'Amato Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and then again Sunday night at 8 p.m. A man who police say killed 3 people in a chain reaction car wreck Friday night has been ordered held without bail by a judge. 2 families are still in shock over the tragedy. Queens reporter Gary Anthony Ramsey talked to some relatives who are still asking the questions, how and why.
A family mourns their sudden loss. On Friday night, Doris Grant's niece, 23-year-old Yolanda Jones, and her 4-month-old son, Kawan, were killed in a chain reaction car accident just 6 blocks from her home.
My kids were crossing Rockaway Boulevard, and he never stopped for the light.
Police say that 32-year-old Peter Gallo was speeding down Eastern Rockaway Boulevard. They say he ran a red light at this signal at 131st Street and plowed into the side of the car carrying Jones and her baby. The woman and her son were headed home after getting something to eat. The driver of the car, 25-year-old Jillian Quamina, was also killed. She was 7 months pregnant. Police arrested Gallo after he crashed into 2 more parked cars on Rockaway Boulevard. Investigators say he was high on drugs.
The complaint alleges that that Mr. Gallo was under the influence of a controlled substance, namely PCP.
All 3 people died later at area hospitals, but not without gallant efforts to keep them alive.
We picked the baby up, we began to do CPR on the baby, and it didn't look good. So we decided that the best thing to do would be get him to the hospital as fast as possible.
5 other people were hurt at the scene. Late Saturday afternoon, Gallo was arraigned on 3 charges of second-degree murder, 3 counts of manslaughter, numerous reckless endangerment charges, as well as leaving the scene of an accident.
Obviously, it's a tragic situation. I think just see where the case goes at this point, get some more information, find out lab tests, things like that.
Peter Gallo's family had no comment as they left the Queens County Court building. A judge ordered him held without bail, and prosecutors will present their evidence to a grand jury next week. While mortified by the death of her niece, Doris Grant says she's not bitter.
I don't judge him. I feel very sorry for him, for he is a very sick person who needs help. And if he could only come to himself and realize what he has done.
In Ozone Park, Gary Anthony Ramsey, New York 1.
If you think you've been hearing more and more tragic stories of deadly child abuse in the city lately, you're right. The number of fatal child abuse cases has risen sharply in the past year. A report by the Child Abuse Fatality Review Panel says that 27 children in New York City died last year as the result of severe abuse. That's a jump from the previous year when there were 16 deaths caused by child abuse. About half of the deaths were at the hands of men, either husbands or boyfriends. The average age of the child abuse victim is 17 months. One child welfare administrator says the problem is caused in part by bureaucracy in the social service system, where city agencies are failing to share information. More than 70% of the children who were fatally abused came from homes that also had adult domestic violence. An 87-year-old blind Bronx woman may soon face the most difficult decision of her long life, her home or her pooch. Estelle Meyer has been living in the same apartment on Orloff Avenue for 20 years, but now she may be evicted by her landlord, Amalgamated Houses, if she doesn't get rid of her new furry roommate, Scruffy. Amalgamated says Scruffy violates a no dogs allowed policy. Meyer and her son are outraged at the thought of losing their four-legged friend.
Because it's a dog shag, what they doing to me.
I mean, an 87-year-old blind woman, I don't care where she lives. I mean, don't people have heart? I mean, how can you just separate some people like this? That's like separating Siamese twins and putting one in one place or another place. It's just the wrong thing to do. I mean, people don't know how to be human nowadays.
Scruffy is not only a bedside companion. Meyer's doctors say the dog is also important to her health. Meyer and her son say they'll not give up Scruffy without a fight, and they say they're ready to go to court if Amalgamated continues its battle. Volunteers from Mayor Dinkins' Increase the Peace program are spreading racial harmony in Staten Island. Community leaders are working with the police and bringing together all people to help put an end to racial bias. New York One's Adele Samarco has more.
Letitia Romero is a volunteer for Mayor Dinkins' Increase the Peace program on Staten Island. She owns a tavern in the Pleasant Plains section of the borough and has joined the volunteer group in an effort to put an end to racial bias.
One day, a gentleman peeked his head through the door. He was a Hispanic gentleman, and he asked me, if I would serve him. And I said to him, well, do you have $2? And he says, yeah. And I said, well, what's up? Why are you, so concerned? And he told me that just the day before he was drinking in another bar, and he was brutally beat up because he was a Hispanic. That kind of touched my heart.
Letitia is only one of 40 volunteers involved in the program. She is working with members of the police force and community policing trainees to spread peace throughout the communities.
There's a lot of people in the community that love seeing us here. I've gotten a lot of response where people say, I wish you were here 24 hours, but we can only be here 8.5.
A Park Hill resident was doubtful about bringing racial harmony in her community.
You don't get involvement because people have to live here. They have nowhere to go, and that's the problem. That's why you don't have the involvement.
And some residents in the Stapleton area want to see more youth programs geared to keep teens more active.
When you went to the community, did you see how many of the youth that were out there when they should have been in school?
Yeah.
Did you see that? You take a look at that. You take a look at the community, the way they treat their own community. They have no respect for it because there's no proper training.
Teach these children.
Give something back.
Sheetrocking, something that they could learn the value of $1 rather than to get it in the street.
Increase the Peace Corps volunteers want to act as the liaison between police and the residents if a bias-related incident should occur in an at-risk community. On Staten Island, Adele Samarco, New York One.
Here's a look at news taking place in the world beyond New York. A severe earthquake rocked a small Colombian fishing village early Saturday morning. The small town of Morindo suffered substantial damage, but there are no reported deaths right now. The governor of the Colombian state of Antioquia said Morindo's health clinic was destroyed. A helicopter with doctors and medicine has reportedly landed in the village. The quake measured 6.6 on the Richter scale. Meanwhile, the damage from this week's deadly earthquake in Egypt continues to grow. On Saturday, Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak estimated the cost for relief, compensation, and new housing from the Cairo quake at more than $660 million. That's 4 times his estimate last Tuesday. And Mubarak said the new estimate still may be too low. More than 500 people died and 4,000 were injured in addition to damage to thousands of buildings there. Other Arab countries have pledged more than $200 million in aid to Egypt. And back in the United States, 2 of the presidential candidates laid low on Saturday, while the other is taking to the airwaves. President Bush is spending most of this weekend at Camp David. The president has no travel or public appearance plans until Monday, when he heads to East Lansing, Michigan, for the final debate. And Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton is also keeping a low profile. He's back in his home state, resting his voice for Monday's showdown. But Ross Perot is scheduled to be on TV for the 2nd night in a row, offering his cure for America's ailing economy. Perot's calling for higher taxes and spending cuts to end the federal deficit.
With a look at sports, I'm Steve Cangelosi. Well, can anything top the 7th and deciding game of the National League playoffs between the Braves and Pirates? Maybe not, but the World Series begins tonight with Game 1 at Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium. The Braves taking on the Toronto Blue Jays, a pair of 20-game winners starting Game 1. Jack Morris and Tom Glavine. We'll have highlights coming up later. They're calling it the new Ice Age at Nassau Coliseum, and the Islanders opening up their home schedule tonight against the Rangers out at Nassau Coliseum. The Devils home against Eric Lindros and the Flyers. You remember the last time the Knicks played a game at Madison Square Garden? It was the thrilling Game 6 victory over the Bulls in last year's playoffs. Well, tonight the Knicks opening up their preseason home schedule, taking on the Dallas Mavericks at the Garden. Among the surprises in college football Saturday afternoon, Boston College over Penn State, 35-32 the final. This is one of Eagles quarterback Glenn Foley's 4 touchdown passes on the day. In 20 meetings between the schools, it's only the second time that BC has defeated the Nittany Lions. Boston College still undefeated at 5-0-1. Meanwhile, Syracuse beats West Virginia 20-17. Orangeman quarterback Marvin Graves on this play takes exception to the late hit, so he fires the ball at the man's head. And then the scene gets really ugly. A lot of pushing, punching, even some kicking going on. The Mountaineers rush all the way from the other sideline. Eventually, 3 West Virginia players suspended, 1 Syracuse player kicked.
Intimate, revealing. E lets you see your favorite celebrities like no other channel can, with a variety of shows and specials. So call your local cable company and say, give me an E.
Here are some more events going on around the city in the New York Telephone Community Calendar, keeping you connected to those you care about.
You're watching New York 1 News.
Here's a look at New York 1 News in a minute. A 23-year-old waiter from the posh Hudson River Club was stabbed to death early Saturday while riding on the subway. Joseph Scott was trying to intervene in a robbery on a southbound number 6 train. While asking the conductor for help, 4 youths surrounded him and he was stabbed numerous times. The 4 suspects are now in police custody. The city's campaign to wipe out the spread of tuberculosis has a bigger budget than the federal government's for combating the disease. According to a report in New York Newsday, the Big Apple's battle against TB costs taxpayers almost $82 million annually. And the Daily News is trying to kill a provision that guarantees printers jobs for life. Would-be buyer Mortimer Zuckerman says the proposal would be too expensive and may cause the paper to fold permanently.
From New York City's only all-news channel, this is New York 1. News all weekend.
Hello, I'm Roma Torrey. Now let's take a look at our top headlines. Manhattan Borough President Ruth Messinger supports a proposed plan that would isolate Manhattan schools from the rest of the New York City school system. The plan is designed to free Manhattan schools from the Board of Education's bureaucracy. And in preparation for Sunday night's presidential debate, Governor Bill Clinton is holed up in a Kansas City hotel room practicing with his staff in mock debate sessions. Meanwhile, President Bush is doing the same at the White House. And presidential hopeful Ross Perot apparently is doing nothing to prepare for tomorrow night's televised showdown. Aides say he knows the issues well enough already. And some Native American tribes celebrated their heritage Saturday in Central Park by erecting a 40-foot-high teepee and performing Native rituals. The sacred sunrise ceremony was for the launching of a new foundation that will return ritual objects to Indian nations. Time now for weather on the ones. Overnight, the cool weather returns, so does the humidity. 56 degrees is the low, and the comfort index says it feels a bit warmer, 58 degrees. Sunday, high temperatures remain in the upper 60s. That's the good news. As for the bad, well, the showers return too, mostly in the afternoon, though it won't be quite so humid at 65%. The comfort index drops a couple of degrees Sunday, giving us a reading of 66. And Sunday night, it'll be downright chilly, though the rain should end by nighttime. Low temperatures, 53, humidity, 77%, and the comfort index reads a true 53. A Manhattan man was killed aboard a southbound subway in the Bronx Saturday morning. 23-year-old Joseph Scott died from stab injuries to his neck and side. Scott was trying to break up a robbery when the group allegedly turned on him, stabbing him once. He ran to the next car and beat on the motorman's door. By the time the motorman opened the door, Scott was stabbed 2 more times. Scott's family says he was always helping people he didn't know.
Came from a very Christian family, and we believe in helping each other. We help anyone we see in need of help. And I felt if I was there, I felt I would have done the same thing.
Police have arrested 4 teenagers ranging in ages from 16 to 19 in connection with Scott's death. A tragic ending to a short life. A 2-month-old baby girl is dead, and her father has been charged with the murder. David Miranda took his daughter Apple to St. Luke's Hospital, but she died just minutes after she got to the emergency room. An autopsy showed the infant died of child abuse syndrome and a brain hemorrhage. Miranda is 20 years old. He and his wife live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. New York City is waging an expensive fight against tuberculosis. According to Saturday's New York Newsday, the city is spending more money fighting TB than the federal government does combating the disease in the entire nation. The city's tuberculosis battle costs taxpayers almost $82 million a year. The massive effort involves 4 city agencies. Yesterday, Mayor Dinkins outlined a TB blueprint, which includes a proposal for giving $5 food vouchers to homeless TB victims who take their medicine. The blueprint also includes specially designed isolation rooms to be built at city hospitals. More news at the Daily News. The paper is trying to kill a provision that guarantees printers at the News jobs for life. The lifetime job guarantee was written into the printers' contracts back in 1973. Well, now the paper has asked a judge to void the job guarantee. That guarantee was given to the 167 members in return for allowing the paper to modernize their printing equipment. Well, now interested buyer Mortimer Zuckerman says the lifetime job promise is just too expensive to keep and that he's not willing to assume that guarantee should he buy the paper. A spokesman for the News says if the paper is forced to keep the job guarantees, the paper could fold permanently. Geraldine Ferraro is playing a part in Senator Alphonse D'Amato's campaign ads, despite objections from the former vice presidential candidate.
The FERRARO Commission has said to you that you should not take campaign contributions from people who are doing business with your agency. You are currently...
According to a D'Amato spokesperson, footage of Ferraro attacking Robert Abrams during a debate will continue to run in TV commercials. This despite demands from Ferraro that D'Amato immediately stop using her face and name. Meanwhile, State Democratic Chair John Marino has joined Ferraro in denouncing the D'Amato ad campaign. Marino says D'Amato using Ferraro perpetuates the anti-Ferraro story and hurts Ferraro and her family. Marino called the D'Amato ad shamelessly exploitive and says he is personally offended by it. Manhattan Borough President Ruth Messinger is backing a plan that would separate Manhattan schools from the rest of the New York City school system. According to Saturday's New York Times, Messinger says the plan could free Manhattan schools from Board of Education bureaucracy. The plan suggests a 5-year pilot project, an experiment to see if Manhattan's more than 150 schools can operate independently of the system. If it works, other borough schools would be free to do the same. The so-called secession from the board would require legislative approval at the state level. A spokesman from School Chancellor Joseph Fernandez's office said he had not seen Messinger's plan, but was skeptical, comparing the move to Staten Island's effort to secede from New York. 3 weeks ago, NY1 broke the story of a Manhattan high school where book shortages had students struggling to make the grade. At that time, the Board of Education said additional books would arrive within several days. But our Carol Ann Riddell has this exclusive follow-up report.
Several weeks ago, we told you about this Upper West Side school, Martin Luther King High, where after more than 2 weeks of classes, some students had not received any textbooks. Freshman Gian Slaninka Jones is one of those students. We checked with him again Friday to see if the situation had improved.
I have books in one class, my math class, of all the classes that I have.
Gian's father, a member of the PTA, says his son is not alone.
Many parents feel the same way I do. We're kind of indignant that the freshman class in particular lacks books.
And now that school has been in session for a month, Slaninka says he's beginning to lose hope of books arriving at all this semester.
I just feel like my worst fears are being realized. That is that my son probably won't get textbooks until January.
Once again, the principal here did not return my phone calls. However, I did speak with the Board of Education. They said the school has already distributed whatever books are available, so it doesn't appear that students will be receiving any additional books unless the school comes up with extra funds. But it's not just this school. The state allots $25 per student annually for textbooks, and a Board of Ed spokesperson says that amount is ludicrous and often won't even buy one book. City Council member Joan Griffin McCabe agrees.
No, that $25 is a joke, and the city of New York ought to just be incredibly embarrassed that that's what they think is enough for reading materials for students in the city of New York.
McCabe has been working on this issue for 5 years. Last spring, she introduced a bill that would require the city to match state funding for textbooks, bringing the total per child up to $50. Yet after all this time, she says it won't be easy to get the bill passed.
I think that it will be very tough for this bill to pass because historically the New York City Council has not gotten involved in the intricacies, what I would consider the nuts and bolts of the school system.
And Gian says the book shortage is leaving students shortchanged.
The Board of Ed is spending too much money on other things when we should be spending them on the books. And they're complaining about how we should invest in the future. We are the future, but we are not being invested in.
If you feel your school does not have an adequate number of books, there are several things you can do. One, try the school PTA. Another, call your city council representative and ask them to consider the textbook bill. Carol Ann Riddell, New York 1.
Coming up on New York 1, we'll look at the symptoms of environmental illness.
I love the city, the sights, the sounds. That's why I shop at Sound City. They blow you away. Just imagine all consumer electronic products at great prices. Experience the ProScan TV Video Laser Disc Series with the technology and advanced engineering to give you remarkable performance, movie-like detail, and astounding clarity. See the complete ProScan series at Sound City. That's right, Sound City, where you can always talk to the boss. It's electrifying, yes.
Every month, enter the world of fine interior design. Enter the fascinating world of Architectural Digest. View a pied-à-terre in Paris, a noted fashion designer's rustic Montana ranch, a renowned artist's Hudson River farmhouse, and an English designer's bright and airy London home. Every issue of Architectural Digest will enlighten and inspire. You'll discover how the world's top interior designers help their clients capture their personalities in their homes. You'll also visit celebrity homes, like Michael Douglas's dramatic Manhattan hideaway, or Neil Simon's Malibu Beach House. And you'll keep up to date with insightful features on architecture, art, and antiques. Call now and get 12 issues of Architectural Digest for only $29.95. You'll also receive absolutely free Celebrity Homes Revisited, a tour that includes the homes of Jeffrey Beam, Pavarotti, and Cher.
Call toll-free 800-328-1200. That's 800-328-1200.
Of all the weapons used in the world in the last 40 years, none
had more power than this one.
Now it's time for weather on the ones and the extended forecast. The spring-like temperatures have to feel more like autumn eventually, and that's just what happens tonight. Low temperatures, 56 degrees. Clouds remain, though. Humidity rises to 78%, and the winds very still out of the north at 5 miles an hour. The comfort index reads 58. Sunday, outdoor plants should at least be happy. The showers return by mid-afternoon. High temperatures remain very comfortable, though, at 68 degrees. Humidity just 65, and the comfort index says it'll feel closer to 66. Sunday night, the rain should end, though the mercury drops to 53. Humidity rises to 77, and the comfort index says it feels like it looks, 53 degrees. As for the extended holiday forecast, Monday, Columbus Day, a fairly cool but rainless day. High temperatures in the low 60s. Lows remain pretty low, near 52 degrees. And as we check on travel conditions across the country, remember that you can always get the time and temperature in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, right here on New York One. Taking a look now at news outside New York, CIA officials have told the Senate Intelligence Committee that they deliberately withheld information from federal prosecutors investigating illegal loans to Iraq. So says a report on the front page of Saturday's New York Times. The report contradicts earlier CIA statements that the misinformation was an honest mistake. The Senate Intelligence Committee is now investigating whether the Justice Department was in collusion with the CIA to hide information about the illegal Iraqi loans. An American bomb disposal expert who was being held by the Iraqi government is now free. A UN spokesman says Chad Hall is in good health and was turned over to a United Nations official in Baghdad Saturday. The Iraqi government announced Hall's release, saying that his arrest was a mistake, but they did not apologize for taking him into custody. Hall was sweeping for mines on the Kuwaiti side of the Iraq-Kuwait border when he was arrested. And Dutch officials now say the death toll in the Israeli El Al cargo jet crash stands at 80. The count was lowered after 40 people called a missing persons hotline to say they are alive. Authorities had published a list of 120 killed or reported missing with the hopes of reaching those incorrectly listed. 51 bodies have been recovered from the rubble of the twin-story apartment complex where the cargo jet crashed in Amsterdam last Sunday.
All right.
I can't believe my horse won.
I just phoned in my bet.
I just picked a letter.
You gotta try it.
OTB is better than ever. More people are winning because there's more ways to play. One way is to treat yourself to the Elegant Select Club and Inside Track teletheaters. But the most convenient way is to bet by phone. OTB's new telephone betting system and representatives make it even easier for you to bet by phone. And there's no surcharge on your winnings. Call 212-704-5337 to open your account. Act now and you'll get a free OTB t-shirt. That's 212-704-5337. Call now.
You've got to make a choice to share your heart and voice.
Hello? Hi, good looking. Guess who?
Sam.
What's up?
Nothing. My date just canceled.
Well, how about a date with me?
You're my brother.
So? Come on over, watch the game, play with the kids.
Wax your car?
Yeah, we'll have a great time. We miss you.
Aw.
And the car's really dirty.
We're all connected. New York Telephone.
If you're in business, you know advertising can be a hit-or-miss proposition. Some is off target, and even the big idea can fall short. But advertising on cable TV is a surefire way to reach your most likely customer, because whoever you're aiming for, there's a cable channel that targets your buyers in your area. Cable TV advertising. It works.
To advertise on local cable, call 353-0111.
I'm Roma Torrey, taking a look at our top local stories at this hour. Police say a waiter from a posh Manhattan restaurant lost his life while trying to stop a robbery. Transit police say Joseph Scott was stabbed by a gang of men on a subway train today. 5 suspects are in police custody. So far, there's been no arrests. The city is apparently waging an expensive war against tuberculosis. The New York Newsday says the city spends more money fighting the disease than the federal government does nationwide. And despite her objections, former Democratic senatorial candidate Geraldine Ferraro will be featured in Senator Alphonse D'Amato's TV ads. Ferraro had demanded that clips of her bashing Democratic challenger Robert Abrams during a debate be taken out of the commercials. But a D'Amato spokesperson says the ads will run uncut and uninterrupted. A New York justice says City Comptroller Elizabeth Holtzman spread unfounded rumors linking a local building company to the mob. The contractor, Frank D. Mateus, lost a bid for a $1.2 million prison construction job last December after Holtzman objected to his getting the job because of suspected mob ties. D. Mateus sued the city, and State Supreme Court Justice Alice Schlesinger sided with him, according to a report in today's New York Times. Schlesinger's decision said that efforts to tie Mr. D. Mateus to the mob were nothing more than rumors being spread by Holtzman herself. The ruling, however, will not give D. Mateus back the contract. The city plans to appeal the justice's decision. A black teenager from Brooklyn who was the victim of a bias attack is now getting round-the-clock police protection. That's because investigators are now looking into the possibility his attackers are connected to the mob. Mark Terry was attacked last month by a group of white teens. They fired a pellet gun and yelled racial slurs at Terry as he was walking to his apartment in Starrett City. A spokesman for the Brooklyn District Attorney says they've been told that Terry's attackers are the sons of top reputed mobsters. One teen, Joseph Cassidy of Howard Beach, has already been charged in the attack.
With a look at sports, I'm Steve Cangelosi. The Toronto Blue Jays are now up 2-1 in the best-of-7 American League Championship Series. They hang on to beat the Oakland A's this afternoon by a score of 7-5. Key play in the ball game came in the bottom of the 4th inning. Bases loaded, nobody out. Oakland had a chance to take control of this one, but Walt Weiss coming up here will fly to right field. Joe Carter gets under it. He fires home, and he nails Mark McGwire by a mile, and that pretty much took the momentum out of Oakland's sails. Meanwhile, later on in the 8th inning, Toronto up 5-4. This wild pitch by Jeff Russell allows Dave Winfield to score. He makes it 6-4, and Toronto now up 2-1. Game 4 will take place tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the Pirates have a chance to tie up the National League playoffs tonight. They're taking on the Braves. Game 2, the starters, Doug Drabeck and John Smoltz, will have highlights later. In college football, Columbia drops to 1-3 following a 29-22 loss to Bucknell. This game was tied at 22, 6:45 to play when Lions quarterback Chad Andrzejewski threw that interception. Bucknell returned it for the touchdown, and they go on to win it. Also in local action, Fordham now 0-5 following a 31-12 loss to Yale. Also college football, Miami extends the nation's longest winning streak to 23 following a 17-14 win over Penn State. Trailing 10-7 late in the 3rd, here's the play that took the momentum away from the Nittany Lions. John Saka threw that bad interception right into the hands of Miami's Darren Crine, and Penn State loses before 96,000 plus at Beaver Stadium. At the Carrier Dome, homecoming for Syracuse. This is one of quarterback Marvin Graves' 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter. A 69-yarder to the missile. Quandre Ishmael and the Orangemen go on to rout Rutgers 50-28. One upset in the top 10. Arkansas beats Tennessee 25-24. Arkansas hit a field goal with 2 seconds left to win it. Hockey tonight, the Islanders are in Boston. Devils hosting the Rangers. We'll have highlights later. And a big day at Belmont Park. The Jockey Club Gold Cup, won by Pleasant Tap, took the lead at the top of the stretch and went on to win it.
Yeah, that's me. And it still seems like a dream. But you don't have to be an Olympic marathoner to enjoy the benefits of running. Hi, I'm Frank Shorter from Runner's World magazine. Did you know that in as little as 20 minutes, 3 times a week, you can trim down, shape up, and have more energy than you ever thought possible? This free book shows you how. It's filled with super training tips for stronger and smoother running. And it's yours free, just for trying Runner's World.
Every month, Runner's World tells you all about high-energy meals, training secrets, staying healthy, even buying the perfect running shoes. Call now for your no-risk trial subscription to Runner's World. You'll get 12 big issues for almost half off the cover price. Just 3 payments of $5.99. There's no obligation. If you're not completely satisfied, get back every penny you paid. And with your paid subscription, you'll receive the exclusive Runner's World training log. Call the toll-free number on your screen now.
Excuse me, where's the waiting room?
Pardon me?
The waiting room.
Here, follow me. I'm going that way.
Thank you.
I came in to visit my granddaughter. She just got home from college. Said to meet her here.
Oh, there she is! Have a wonderful visit.
You've got to make the choice to share your heart and voice. We're all connected.
Hi, Grandma. I was just thinking about you. Let's have dinner.
Telephone.
I love this city, the sights, the sounds. That's why I shop at Sound City. They blow you away. Just imagine TVs, VCRs, camcorders, anything you want at great prices. Make a deal on Mitsubishi's hottest high-tech, starting with high-resolution big-screen TVs ranging from 27 to 70 inches. Then add a 4-head VCR at shocking savings. There's a bright side to life in the big city. Sound City. That's right, Sound City, where you can always talk to the boss. It's electrifying, yes.
Time now for weather on the ones. Overnight, the cool weather returns. So does the humidity. 56 degrees is the low, and the comfort index says it feels a bit warmer, 58 degrees. Sunday, high temperatures remain in the upper 60s. That's the good news. As for the bad, well, the showers return too, mostly in the afternoon, though it won't be quite so humid at 65%. The comfort index drops a couple of degrees Sunday, giving us a reading of 66. And Sunday night, it'll be downright chilly, though the rain should end by nighttime. Low temperatures, 53, humidity, 77%, and the comfort index reads a true 53.
The New York Living Health Report is sponsored by HIP, one of medicine's great discoveries.
I'm Roma Torrey with today's New York Living. Doctors are beginning to report cases of a controversial ailment called environmental illness. New York 1's Elizabeth Caledon examines whether environmental illness is caused by the environment or the imagination.
I go outside here and I get sick from the car exhaust. Or maybe somebody's spraying a pesticide somewhere, or someone's painting a house, or someone's tarring a roof.
Lori Frank lives like a prisoner in her chemical-free home. She believes she's a victim of a disease called environmental illness, a controversial syndrome caused by cumulative exposure to the things we all come in contact with every day: car exhaust, chemicals, and industrial pollution. Immunologist Robert Sinaiko has been studying environmental illness for years.
EI, or environmental illness, is a condition in which the individual reacts with some sort of adverse consequences to exposures to chemicals. The exposures are very low-level exposures, and the symptoms include the central nervous system, headache, trouble thinking, trouble concentrating. They can involve the skin, they can involve the respiratory tract.
So far, no one has developed a medical test or procedure to diagnose the environmental disorder that is making Lori sick. And some doctors believe that environmental illness is really an emotional disorder based on an irrational fear of chemicals.
They have nothing wrong with them that can show up in any kind of a test or any physical examination. They're typically what most laypersons would call psychosomatic.
But other doctors fear environmental illness may be the asbestos of the 1990s, a new disease that could just be starting to appear.
The environmental illness patients are simply the canaries. They are the ones that should tell us when we should be getting out of the environment and when the environment is dangerous.
While doctors debate whether or not environmental illness is an affliction of the mind or the body, people like Lori Frank are devastated by this disease.
It's like being in a chemical war zone. I mean, you go outside and you take your chances.
Elizabeth Caledon, New York 1.
New York 1 has learned that a malt liquor called Crazy Horse will soon be off the shelves. At a time when Native Americans are still being stereotyped, many Native Americans feel they've won a small victory in Brooklyn. Our Barbara Wood has more.
Whether it's on national television or in the bodega around the corner, Native Americans say they're tired of being used. They say the commercialization of their culture is disrespectful. And now, Crazy Horse will no longer have a malt liquor with his name on it once the present stock is sold out. A successful boycott has led President Bush to sign a bill that puts an end to a label that offended many Native Americans.
They need to understand the esteem that this person held and still holds in his community. We're the only people in the world that don't exist, that are, you know, you can talk about Indians as if to their face as if they weren't here.
Some Native Americans say using a name like Crazy Horse Malt Liquor to market an alcoholic beverage is a lot like saying Martin Luther King Beer or Uncle Sam White Wine. Native Americans say that Crazy Horse is a spiritual leader for them, who ironically discourage the drinking of alcohol.
It's tying one of the most respected Sioux leaders and spiritual people to something that has been a problem for Native Americans in terms of the media, certainly alcoholism.
John Farolito, the president of the company that sells Crazy Horse, was unavailable to speak on camera. But over the telephone, he told News One that his company went with the Crazy Horse label to evoke the feeling of the Old West, not the stereotype of alcoholism among Native Americans. He says he's outraged and that the act is unconstitutional. Farolito says his company plans to fight to keep the label as is. In Canarsie, Barbara Wood, New York One.
Barbara says the Native American community pledges to continue its boycott as long as Crazy Horse is on the shelves. Native Americans celebrated their heritage Saturday in Central Park and launched a foundation aimed at returning ritual objects to Indian nations. 10 tribes were on hand as a 40-foot teepee was erected and tribal music was performed for the sacred sunrise ceremony. Tobacco, cedar, sage, and sweetgrass were burned to represent the north, south, east, and west. This Native American ritual lasted for 3 hours and was open to the general public. You're watching New York One News All Weekend. I'm Roma Torrey. Stay tuned, there's more news ahead.
Mom! Mom? Can I have a little money?
What's a little money?
$42.
$42? What do you think I am?
A cash machine. Cool.
Considering how much things cost these days, why not consider health insurance from HIP? HIP offers comprehensive quality care you can afford. And if you've got kids, you could use the money.
Sure, Mom.
Discover a new world of savings at the JCPenney Columbus Day sale. Save on luggage, window coverings, and apparel for the entire family. You'll find historic savings on famous names, now through Monday at JCPenney.
Treat yourself to a day of pampering at the JCPenney Styling Salon. Choose from one of the many services, including highlighting, perms, relaxers, color, conditioning, nail care, and body waxing. What are you waiting for? Call the JCPenney Styling Salon nearest you.
New York One, the 60th precinct.
'Cause I feel safe here.
Because there's only one New York. New York One. New York City news for New Yorkers. 24 hours a day. Only on cable TV. Only on Channel 1. New York One, the USTA.
Because I'm going to win the U.S. Open.
New York One.
Because there's only one New York.
New York One. New York City news for New Yorkers. 24 hours a day. Only on cable TV. Only on Channel 1.
You're watching New York One News.
Here's all the news you need to know in a New York 1 minute. A New York City man was stabbed to death early Saturday while riding on the subway. 23-year-old Joseph Scott was killed while complaining to the conductor on the southbound number 6 about a robbery in progress. 4 youths are in custody for the stabbing and a knife has been recovered. A debate is underway this holiday weekend over whether Christopher Columbus is a hero or the catalyst for destruction. The Italian Historical Society says Columbus has not received the recognition he deserves. Native Americans say the Italian explorer's discovery of the New World led to mass genocide of American Indians. And despite her objections, Geraldine Ferraro will continue to appear in Senator Alphonse D'Amato's campaign commercials. State Democratic Chair John Marino also objects to Ferraro's use in the ads. Marino called them shamelessly exploitive.
From New York City's only all-news channel, this is New York One. News all weekend.
I'm Roma Torrey. Ahead on News All Weekend, New York City is spending astronomical amounts to fight tuberculosis. Taxpayers pay almost $82 million a year to battle the disease. That's more than the federal government spends in their entire campaign to wipe out TB. Dutch officials now place the death toll in last Sunday's El Al cargo plane crash at 80. Earlier estimates listed 120 people as having died in the crash, but 40 people on the list called into a missing persons hotline to say they are alive. The investigation into the crash continues, with attention being focused on the plane's engines. And at LaGuardia Airport Saturday, rescue crews prepped for a plane crash with a realistic crash simulation drill. The drill, dubbed Operation Low Key, simulated the explosion of a 727 coming in for a landing on runway 13. The last two LaGuardia crash drills were conducted at night. Time now for weather on the ones. Overnight, the cool weather returns, so does the humidity. 56 degrees is the low, and the comfort index says it feels a bit warmer, 58 degrees. Sunday, high temperatures remain in the upper 60s. That's the good news. As for the bad, well, the showers return too, mostly in the afternoon, though it won't be quite so humid at 65%. The comfort index drops a couple of degrees Sunday, giving us a reading of 66. And Sunday night, it'll be downright chilly, though the rain should end by nighttime. Low temperatures 53, humidity 77%, and the comfort index reads a true 53. A 23-year-old man was stabbed to death early Saturday on the subway after trying to intervene in a robbery. Joseph Scott was riding the southbound number 6 train in the Bronx and was asking the conductor to help him stop the robbery when he was attacked. 4 youths surrounded Scott, and he was stabbed numerous times in the neck and side. Scott was taken to Jacoby Hospital but died a short time later. 4 suspects are being held in connection with the stabbing, but no charges have been filed. Scott was a waiter at the Hudson River Club. New York City is waging an expensive fight against tuberculosis. According to Saturday's New York Newsday, the city is spending more money fighting TB than the federal government does combating the disease in the entire nation. The city's tuberculosis battle costs taxpayers almost $82 million a year. The massive effort involves 4 city agencies. Yesterday, Mayor Dinkins outlined a TB blueprint, which includes a proposal for giving $5 food vouchers to homeless TB victims who take their medicine. The blueprint also includes specially designed isolation rooms to be built at city hospitals. Manhattan Borough President Ruth Messinger is backing a plan that would separate Manhattan schools from the rest of the New York City school system. According to Saturday's New York Times, Messinger says the plan could free Manhattan schools from Board of Education bureaucracy. The plan suggests a 5-year pilot project, an experiment to see if Manhattan's more than 150 schools can operate independently of the system. If it works, other borough schools would be free to do the same. The so-called secession from the board would require legislative approval at the state level. A spokesman from School Chancellor Joseph Fernandez's office said he had not seen Messinger's plan, but was skeptical, comparing the move to Staten Island's effort to secede from New York. Geraldine Ferraro is playing a part in Senator Alphonse D'Amato's campaign ads, despite objections from the former vice presidential candidate.
The FERRARO Commission has said to you that you should not take campaign contributions from people who are doing business with your agency. You are currently...
According to a D'Amato spokesperson, footage of Ferraro attacking Robert Abrams during a debate will continue to run in TV commercials. This despite demands from Ferraro that D'Amato immediately stop using her face and name. Meanwhile, State Democratic Chair John Marino has joined Ferraro in denouncing the D'Amato ad campaign. Marino says D'Amato using Ferraro perpetuates the anti-Ferraro story and hurts Ferraro and her family. Marino called the D'Amato ad shamelessly exploitive and says he is personally offended by it. A New York justice says City Comptroller Elizabeth Holtzman spread unfounded rumors linking a local building company to the mob. The contractor, Frank D. Mateus, lost a bid for a $1.2 million prison construction job last December after Holtzman objected to his getting the job because of suspected mob ties. D. Mateus sued the city, and State Supreme Court Justice Alice Schlesinger sided with him, according to a report in today's New York Times. Schlesinger's decision said that efforts to tie Mr. DeMatteis to the mob were nothing more than rumors being spread by Holtzman herself. The ruling, however, will not give DeMatteis back the contract. The city plans to appeal the justice's decision. The presidential debates are not the only debates this weekend. On the eve of Columbus Day, a difference of opinion has arisen over whether the Italian discoverer should be treated as a hero or the catalyst for the destruction of a society.
I think he's being treated unfairly because he's being made a scapegoat by certain people who have problems with what happened over the last 500 years. But the problem is that Christopher Columbus isn't responsible for the problems of civilization.
It's well known by us, true American history. You take all the fatalities of the Indian Wars, the World War I, World War II, and Korean War. The number of people that were killed on both sides. And all of those that I mentioned does not equal the amount of the total amount of American Indians that were killed since 500 years, since we're celebrating this, commemorating this 500 years of this quincentennial as Columbus discovered America.
Pope John Paul is in the Dominican Republic for the Columbus quincentennial. The pontiff says he's not there to proclaim Columbus a hero, but to celebrate his bringing Christianity to the New World. Emergency crews drilled Saturday for what they hope never happens again, a plane crash at LaGuardia Airport. New York 1's Michael O'Looney files this report.
The drill was dubbed Operation Low-Key, and it had a terrible scenario. A chartered 727 aircraft with 47 people on board explodes over Bowery Bay as it approaches LaGuardia's runway 13. The tail and partial fuselage fall into the bay, while the remaining front of the aircraft crashes onto the runway. 15 people are dead in the water. Dozens more lay scattered beside the plane. This time it is only a drill, but emergency crews respond as though it is the real thing. Fire crews rush to the scene, putting out the blaze in under 3 minutes. Emergency personnel from the Port Authority, Coast Guard, and Emergency Medical Services arrive. Correction officers stationed just across the bay at Rikers Island also assist as stretcher bearers. Local Boy Scouts volunteer as victims. Mannequins represent the dead. EMS spokesman Robert Leonard, a veteran of 2 real crashes at LaGuardia, says this is as close as it gets to the real thing.
We find these drills to be very realistic. In particular, the last 2 years, these drills have been at night, and if you notice, the last 2 crashes here at LaGuardia Airport have both been at night. This year, we tried a daytime scenario to practice something new, but we do simulate actual patients. We use makeup, moulage, we use real ambulances and sirens and lights. It's just like the real thing.
While emergency crews take part in drills like this each year, they say that no matter how much they practice, it can never totally prepare them for the real thing. And LaGuardia has had its share of the real thing. Last March, U.S. Air Flight 405 skidded off a LaGuardia runway on takeoff and plunged into Flushing Bay. 28 people died. That crash was blamed on icy wings, but critics say there are more dangers to LaGuardia than bad weather. They say their short runways and surrounding water also increase the risk of accidents. Port Authority Police Sergeant Ken Honig says these drills give various emergency agencies a chance to practice working together.
A lot of agencies have drills on their own where their own personnel get to work together. But in drills like this, people from different agencies who don't normally work together get to practice together and interact in a realistic setting.
At LaGuardia Airport in Queens, Michael O'Looney, New York 1.
And coming up on New York Living, we'll have a report on a new and unique service offered by Mount Sinai Hospital to accommodate the families of donor candidates.
For all the little girls we've helped bring into this world, from U.S. Healthcare.
Each time I see a little girl of 5 or 6 or 7, I can't resist a joyous urge to smile and say thank heaven. For little girls get bigger every day. Thank heaven for little girls. They grow up in the most delightful way. Those little eyes so helpless and appealing, one day will flash and send you crashing through the ceiling. Thank heaven for little girls. Thank heaven for them all, no matter where, no matter who. Without them, what would little boys do? Thank heaven, thank heaven, thank heaven.
Over 1 million Americans have turned to us for a healthier way of life. U.S. Healthcare, a health plan for living.
Last year, thousands of innocent children were victims of violent crime. Find out how you can protect your children from crime and drugs in your neighborhood. Call now. Together, we will take a bite out of crime.
Now it's time for weather on the ones and the extended forecast. The spring-like temperatures have to feel more like autumn eventually, and that's just what happens tonight. Low temperatures, 56 degrees. Clouds remain, though. Humidity rises to 78%, and the winds very still out of the north at 5 miles an hour. The comfort index reads 58. Sunday, outdoor plants should at least be happy. The showers return by mid-afternoon. High temperatures remain very comfortable, though, at 68 degrees. Humidity just 65, and the comfort index says it'll feel closer to 66. Sunday night, the rain should end, though the mercury drops to 53. Humidity rises to 77, and the comfort index says it feels like it looks, 53 degrees. As for the extended holiday forecast, Monday, Columbus Day, a fairly cool but rainless day. High temperatures in the low 60s. Lows remain pretty low, near 52 degrees. And as we check on travel conditions across the country, remember that you can always get the time and temperature in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, right here on New York 1. Turning to the news making headlines in the world outside New York. General Motors and workers at a key parts plant in Anderson, Indiana, have tentatively found common ground. Union members and GM officials say they've settled on an agreement which creates new work at the plant while increasing efficiency. Union leaders say the contract reverses the trend to send work overseas and cutting jobs. The three men running for the White House are doing some last-minute cramming before their first debate Sunday night in St. Louis. In Columbus, Ohio yesterday, President Bush told supporters he's relying on his principles and love for the country to counter what he claims is Clinton's Oxford debate expertise. Meanwhile, Clinton also has a light schedule today. He's hitting the books after hitting the road in a fundraising run in Kansas City yesterday. And what about Ross Perot? Well, his advisors say the Texas billionaire is well informed and therefore doesn't need a lot of time to practice for tomorrow.
No more Mr. Nice Guy. The volleyball rivalry born in Barcelona continues at the Garden. The Star Printer Challenge presented by TDI as Team USA spikes off against the Japanese once again. But this time, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Be there for the spikes, the serves, the digs. USA versus Japan, Saturday, October 17th at Madison Square Garden.
Tickets on sale at the Garden box office at Ticketmaster, 212-307-7171.
Be there.
For free shop-at-home service and a location nearest you, call Elegant Entries at 1-800-482-6900.
You wanna accent your weight to positive, eliminate the negative. Tune in to the affirmative, the family channel, yes indeed.
Nobody captures life on the positive side like the Family Channel.
You wanna accentuate the positive, the Family Channel, yes indeed.
I'm Roma Torre, and here's a look at some stories making headlines at this hour. 4 teenagers are in police custody for the stabbing murder of a man aboard a southbound number 6 subway train. 23-year-old Joseph Scott was stabbed to death after he intervened in a robbery, then sought help from the conductor. Police say a knife has been recovered in connection with the stabbing. On the eve of Columbus Day celebrations, a debate rages on about the impact of Columbus's discovery of the New World. The Italian Historical Society says Columbus should receive greater recognition for his discovery, but Native Americans say the quincentennial only reminds them that mass genocide has claimed the lives of millions of Native Americans. And the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria are all in New York Harbor as part of Columbus Day festivities. The ships will be anchored near the Intrepid Museum until March. He's known for writings that reflect the flavor and cultural unity that is found in the islands. And now West Indian poet Derek Walcott is receiving international recognition for his work. The Nobel Prize winner for literature was in New York yesterday. Walcott teaches literature and creative writing at Boston University, but grew up and still spends much of his time in the Caribbean. According to Walcott, his latest poetic work, Omeros, was meant to capture the whole experience of the people of the Caribbean. The 62-year-old writer says he's elated to be honored with an award which carries a $1.2 million cash prize.
I'm sort of floating, okay? When you really come down to it, when you think of it, it is very stupid and very dangerous to think that you have been selected as the best thing around.
Nobel winners are selected by an 18-member assembly of Swedish authors and academics. The award will be officially presented in December.
With a look at sports, I'm Steve Cangelosi. The Toronto Blue Jays are now up 2-1 in the best-of-7 American League Championship Series. They hang on to beat the Oakland A's this afternoon by a score of 7-5. Key play in the ball game came in the bottom of the 4th inning. Bases loaded, nobody out. Oakland had a chance to take control of this one, but Walt Weiss coming up here will fly to right field. Joe Carter gets under it. He fires home, and he nails Mark McGwire by a mile, and that pretty much took the momentum out of Oakland's sails. Meanwhile, later on in the 8th inning, Toronto up 5-4. This wild pitch by Jeff Russell allows Dave Winfield to score. He makes it 6-4, and Toronto now up 2-1. Game 4 will take place tomorrow night. Meanwhile, the Pirates have a chance to tie up the National League playoffs tonight. They're taking on the Braves. Game 2, the starters, Doug Drabeck and John Smoltz, will have highlights later. In college football, Columbia drops to 1-3 following a 29-22 loss to Bucknell. This game was tied at 22, 6:45 to play when Lions quarterback Chad Andrzejewski threw that interception. Bucknell returned it for the touchdown, and they go on to win it. Also in local action, Fordham now 0-5 following a 31-12 loss to Yale. Also college football, Miami extends the nation's longest winning streak to 23 following a 17-14 win over Penn State. Trailing 10-7 late in the 3rd, here's the play that took the momentum away from the Nittany Lions. John Saka threw that bad interception right into the hands of Miami's Darren Crine, and Penn State loses before 96,000 plus at Beaver Stadium. At the Carrier Dome, homecoming for Syracuse. This is one of quarterback Marvin Graves' 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter, a 69-yarder to the missile. Padre Ishmael and the Orangemen go on to rout Rutgers 50-28. One upset in the top 10, Arkansas beats Tennessee 25-24. Arkansas hit a field goal with 2 seconds left to win it. Hockey tonight, the Islanders are in Boston. Devils hosting the Rangers. We'll have highlights later. And a big day at Belmont Park, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, won by Pleasant Tap, took the lead at the top of the stretch and went on to win it.
Hi, what time do you open for lunch? And you accept credit cards? They do. Great, thanks. Yeah, what's playing? Oh, is it good? Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah, is your sale still on? In the shoe department as well?
Yes. The calls you make each
Terrific.
day can help to smooth your way.
Oh, no. You think it's gonna rain?
Why don't you call for the weather?
We're all
Great idea.
connected. New York telephone.
To my grandfather, it's been almost 100 years since you've opened the store, and if you walked into it today, you'd see the store you always dreamed of. Today, ABC brings the soul and spirit of cultures together from all over the world. As you used to say, it takes a dream to build a store, and it takes a heart to build a home.
One after.
Weather.
11 after.
Weather on the ones.
21 after.
Weather reports every 10 minutes.
31 after.
On the ones.
41 after.
On Channel 1.
51 after.
On New York 1.
New York 1 News.
'Cause there's only one New York.
Weather on the ones.
Weather on the Ones is sponsored by TWA, the airline of the stars.
Time now for weather on the ones. Overnight, the cool weather returns, so does the humidity. 56 degrees is the low, and the comfort index says it feels a bit warmer, 58 degrees. Sunday, high temperatures remain in the upper 60s. That's the good news. As for the bad, well, the showers return too, mostly in the afternoon, though it won't be quite so humid at 65%. The comfort index drops a couple of degrees Sunday, giving us a reading of 66. And Sunday night, it'll be downright chilly, though the rain should end by nighttime. Low temperatures 53, humidity 77%, and the comfort index reads a true 53. I'm Roma Torre, and this is New York Living. New York City can be overwhelming and intimidating for some out-of-towners, and when a visitor is here for medical reasons or to be near a loved one in the hospital, many times the accommodations are not at the Waldorf, but in the waiting room. Volunteers from Mount Sinai Hospital are hoping to change all that. New York 1's Nancy Liu reports.
It's a room with a view, and to Pat Moore of Syracuse, New York, it beats the waiting room at Mount Sinai Hospital. For 6 months, Moore had been living in a small waiting room off the pediatric intensive care unit to be near her 19-month-old son who was awaiting a liver transplant. The wait for a liver transplant can sometimes stretch as long as a year, and when the patient is from out of town and confined to the hospital, the waiting room is sometimes the closest and most economical place for the family to stay.
Good afternoon, Transplant Living Center.
That's why the hospital recently opened the Transplant Living Center. Located just 5 blocks from the hospital, it's funded by private donations and staffed by volunteers, some of whom have had transplants. And it's the only place of its kind in New York.
Medical costs are exorbitant today, and just to add on another thing and another stress for the family is not what this is about. This is a way to reduce stress.
According to Pat Moore, it does.
People that has to come from long distance with chronically ill children, as my son, it should be heartwarming to them to let them know that they can find, people that care and who's willing to help and be there for you. It's very important at times like this. It has been for me.
Hospital workers say parents like Pat Moore who take up residence in the waiting room are a growing problem for the staff.
There are no beds there. There is no privacy there. That's where she's been living. And also, there are no support systems there. So yes, it has been a problem.
Transplant coordinators point out that there wouldn't be a need for the Transplant Living Center if not for the acute shortage of organ donors.
So while this shortage makes people wait, this is a perfect solution. It'll give them a comfortable atmosphere where they can feel confident and also talk to other recipients that have gone through it and hopefully help the family out during this trying time.
Moore says though her first concern is for her son, having a home away from home is a major source of comfort. On the Upper East Side, Nancy Liu, New York 1.
Native Americans celebrated their heritage Saturday in Central Park and launched a foundation aimed at returning ritual objects to Indian nations. 10 tribes were on hand as a 40-foot teepee was erected and tribal music was performed for the sacred sunrise ceremony. Tobacco, cedar, sage, and sweetgrass were burned to represent the north, south, east, and west. This Native American ritual lasted for 3 hours and was open to the general public. History literally sailed into New York Harbor Saturday in honor of Columbus Day. Replicas of the ships that took Christopher Columbus on his famous voyage to discover the New World are on display, anchored next to the Intrepid Museum. Visitors are able to walk around the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria and make some interesting discoveries of their own. No need to rush down to the museum, though. The ships won't leave our docks until March. You're watching New York 1 News All Weekend. I'm Roma Torrey. Stay tuned, there's more news ahead.
Discover